The girlfriend I met at the L station wore a faded, washed-out t-shirt and said she only ate twice a day. We were squeezed into a rundown walk-up, but she always managed to magically come up with her freelance pay right before rent was due. She gave me a pair of expensive sneakers, claiming they were convincing knockoffs. She took me to high-end restaurants, saying she had a Groupon. It wasn't until I saw her step out of a sports car worth 8 figures, giving orders to a group of men in sharp business suits, that I finally understood. I first saw Aurora at the exit of suffocatingly hot L station. She was wearing a white t-shirt that looked like it had been through the wash 1,000 times, the collar stretched and loose. She had on a simple pair of blue jeans and a pair of no-name canvas sneakers. She was awkwardly wrestling with a massive suitcase that looked heavier than she was, trying to drag it up 2 miserable little steps. Sweat plastered stray hairs to her forehead, and her cheeks were flushed from the effort. I was just passing by and couldn't just watch her struggle, so I gave her a hand and lifted the suitcase up for her. "Thanks," she said, looking up. Her voice was quiet, laced with an obvious exhaustion, but her eyes were as clear and bright as the sky after a rainstorm. That's when I got a good look at her face, and my heart did a stupid, powerful leap in my chest. She was beautiful with the kind of clean, raw beauty you rarely see. No makeup, but you couldn't look away. "No problem. Happy to help," I said with a wave, getting ready to leave. But she hesitated, then called out to me. Excuse me. Do you know if there are any cheap apartments for rent around here?" I paused, glancing at her and her giant suitcase. "I just got to the city. I don't have a steady job yet," she explained softly. Her eyes held just the right amount of distress and hope, like a little animal afraid of being turned away. Something came over me. The apartment next to mine might be vacant, I heard myself say. "It's an old building, nothing special, but it's cheap. You want to go check it out?" Her eyes lit up instantly, and the way they shone made me feel like I had just done the most right and important thing in the world. The apartment building I lived in could only be described as showing its age. The lights in the hallway flickered on and off, and the walls were plastered with peeling flyers for plumbers and pizza places. I hauled her ridiculously heavy suitcase up 6 flights of stairs and opened the door to the unit next to mine. A musty, stale smell hit us immediately. The apartment was tiny, with only the most basic furniture. The kitchen and bathroom were so small you could barely turn around in them. "It's $1,200 a month. First month's rent and a security deposit up front," I explained, feeling a little embarrassed, like I just tricked her into some kind of slum. This place was honestly a dump for a girl who looked as clean and pretty as she did. But she took a serious look around, then smiled at me. "This is great. It's much better than I expected. I'll take it." She immediately counted out the cash on the spot, telling me it was the deposit and first month's rent for the landlord, asking if I could pass it along. I held the stack of bills, still warm from her hand, and felt a strange pang in my chest. She seemed so desperate to save money, yet she was handing over a significant amount of cash to a total stranger. "You just trust me like that? Not worried I'll just take the money and run?" I had to ask. She looked at me, her eyes curving into crescents. "You don't seem like a bad guy." That one sentence took the tiny bit of kindness and protectiveness I felt and made it swell into something huge. 3, and just like that, Aurora became my neighbor. She told me she found a part-time job as a server at a coffee shop. The hours were inconsistent, but at least it was close. I worked a 9-to-5 job as a designer for a small firm, making just enough to get by. Life as neighbors passed quickly. I started noticing just how frugal she really was. She rarely ordered takeout. I'd often see her in her tiny kitchen, boiling plain ramen noodles, maybe adding an egg if she was splurging. She only bought the cheapest fruit in season, picking out the bruised apples from the discount bin. One time, I saw her carefully twisting up a nearly empty tube of lipstick, using a tiny brush to scrape out the last remnants from the sides. The brand name on the worn-out case was completely illegible. A strange ache bloomed in my chest. A beautiful girl like her should be living a life of ease and elegance. I started looking out for her in small ways. If I cooked something good, I'd bring a bowl over for her. If I saw a street vendor selling warm pretzels on my way home from work, I'd grab one for her, using the excuse that I bought too much and couldn't finish it. She would always take it with a look of genuine surprise, her eyes sparkling as she thanked me. She'd eat every last bite, carefully picking the salt off the wrapper. In those moments, I'd feel like this dilapidated old building wasn't so unbearable after all, just because she was here. For not even a month into her living there, disaster struck. My secondhand laptop, which I was using to finish a rush job late at night, flickered violently and then went completely black. No matter how many times I rebooted or smacked it, it remained a dead, useless brick. The deadline was the next morning. I was so stressed I could feel a cold sore forming, pacing around my room like a caged animal. Even if I sold everything I owned, I couldn't afford a new laptop right now. In the middle of the night, I ran a hand through my hair in frustration and went to step outside for some air. I found Aurora standing at my door, holding a glass of milk. I heard a lot of noise from over here. "Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice full of concern. Dejected, I told her about my laptop dying. If I can't turn in the design tomorrow, I'm probably going to lose my job. She listened, then looked down and tapped on her phone for a moment. "Let me see. I have a friend who just got a new laptop. I think she still has her old one. It's probably still in good shape. Want me to ask if you can borrow it to get through this?" I felt like I was grabbing onto a lifeline. "Really? You'd do that? Thank you so much." "It's nothing. Just wait here," she said, turning back to her apartment to make the call. About 10 minutes later, she returned with a relaxed smile. "It's all set. My friend said it's no problem. She happens to be passing by this way tomorrow morning anyway, so she could drop it off around 7. I let out a huge sigh of relief. So grateful I was at a loss for words. "Aurora, seriously, thank you. You're a lifesaver." She just shook her head. "That's what neighbors are for." 5 the next morning, my doorbell rang before 7. I opened the door to find a young man in a courier uniform standing there, holding a brand-new, factory-seal box for a high-end MacBook Pro. "Morning, express delivery from Ms. Aurora Sterling. This is the laptop you requested." I froze, looking back at Aurora, who had come out after hearing the bell. A flicker of surprise crossed her face, so fast I almost missed it before she composed herself and smoothly took the box and signed for it. Oh, my friend. She must have gotten confused. She sent her current laptop by courier instead of her old one. She held the box and turned, handing it to me with a slightly sheepish expression. "Here, you should use this. It's an emergency." I hesitantly took the heavy box. It felt like it was burning my hands. I'd seen this model advertised in tech magazines. The top-spec version cost more than I made in half a year. This is way too expensive. What if I break it?" "Don't worry about it." She said she was planning on getting a new one anyway. "Just use it," Aurora said in a breezy tone, nudging me back into my apartment. "Now get to work. Don't you have a deadline?" I sat at my desk and opened the old laptop, which was so new the protective film was still on. My fingers were trembling. It ran unbelievably fast and helped me get through the crisis without a hitch. But a seed of doubt had been planted, and it was starting to grow. A girl who used a worn-out lipstick and ate instant ramen had a friend who would casually lend a stranger a top-of-the-line laptop, and it wasn't dropped off by her friend who was passing by, but delivered by a premium courier service that cost a small fortune. 6 after the laptop incident, I started paying more attention to Aurora. I realized I might have underestimated just how tough her life was. One day, the faucet in her apartment broke, and she asked me to help fix it. When I went inside, I noticed a bottle of body wash in her bathroom. The bottle had a minimalist design with a silver logo in a language I didn't recognize. On a whim, I discreetly Googled it on my phone. When the price popped up, I nearly dropped my phone in the sink. It cost enough to buy my own body wash for a year. I looked at her suspiciously. "This body wash is pretty expensive, huh?" She was handing me a wrench. Her hand paused for a fraction of a second. Then she said casually, "Oh, it was a parting gift for employees when I left a job at a luxury hotel." I thought the bottle looked nice. "Is it any good?" "I don't even know the brand." Her story was seamless, her expression perfectly natural. I pushed down the weird feeling in my gut and went back to fixing the faucet. Maybe I was just overthinking things. After I fixed it, I washed my hands and noticed her towel. It was incredibly soft and thick, with an elegant crest embroidered on the corner. Again, nothing I recognized. But I didn't have the nerve to ask about it. I was afraid of sounding petty, like some kind of suspicious jerk who didn't trust his neighbor. What really changed our relationship was a torrential downpour. It was pouring rain when I got off work, and I was trapped under the awning of my office building. I was about to make a run for the L station when I got a message from Aurora. Do you have an umbrella? I'm shopping near your office and have an extra one. Want me to bring it over? A warmth spread through my chest. I sent her my location. A few minutes later, I saw her running toward me, holding a large, sturdy-looking black umbrella. The umbrella was huge, but one of her shoulders was still soaked. This is a serious umbrella, I said, ducking under it to walk beside her through the curtain of rain. Yeah, got on sale at Target. Pretty good quality, she said with a smile. The rain was so heavy that by the time we stumbled back to our building, our pants and shoes were completely soaked. The old building's drainage was terrible, and water was even leaking into the hallway, making it feel even more damp and decrepit. Standing at my door, I looked at her, equally drenched, and couldn't help but say, "Hey, why don't you take a hot shower at my place? You'll catch a cold in those wet clothes. I can throw them in the dryer for you." She hesitated for a moment, glancing down at her soaked t-shirt clinging to her skin, then nodded. "Okay, thanks, Ethan." That was the first time I brought her into my home. After her shower, she came out wearing a clean t-shirt and sweatpants I'd found for her. They were a little big, making her look even more slender. We sat on the couch, listening to the rain drumming against the window, and the atmosphere suddenly became quiet and a little charged. "Are you hungry? I can order something," I said, breaking the silence. "Don't. It's raining so hard. It'll be a nightmare for the delivery guy," she said, shaking her head. "Do you have any pasta in your kitchen? I can make us something." All I had was a box of spaghetti and a few eggs. But with those simple ingredients, she managed to whip up 2 bowls of carbonara that smelled incredible and warmed me to my soul. We sat at the coffee table, quietly eating. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, there was the warm yellow light and the steam rising from our bowls. In that moment, an intense impulse washed over me. I put down my fork and looked at her. "Aurora." She looked up, a little bit of sauce on the corner of her mouth. "Can we be more than just neighbors?" I heard my own voice, shaky with nerves. Aurora seemed startled by my question. She blinked, her long eyelashes fluttering like butterfly wings. Then, a blush slowly crept up her cheeks. She looked down, stirring the noodles in her bowl with her fork. Her voice was as light as a feather. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath. "I like you. A lot. Can I be your boyfriend? I promise I'll treat you right." After I said it, my heart pounded against my ribs like a drum, terrified of what she would say. She was silent for a few seconds. Then she looked up, and the light in her eyes was so soft and gentle, I felt like I could drown in it. She gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. "Okay." A wave of pure joy washed over me, so powerful that it momentarily erased all my doubts about the body wash and the laptop. And just like that, we were together. Once we made it official, I wanted to treat her even better, to take care of her with everything I had. But I quickly discovered that I was always one step behind her. The first weekend after we became a couple, I told her I wanted to take her out for a celebratory dinner. She happily agreed. I picked out an Italian place that I considered reasonably classy, but still within my budget, already mentally calculating that this one meal would mean 2 weeks of instant ramen for me. But when we got to the restaurant, she pulled me to a stop outside. "Oh, this place," she said, frowning slightly at the menu posted by the door. "I saw on Eater that they just got a new chef, and the quality has gone way down. The reviews are terrible. Let's go somewhere else." I didn't doubt her for a second. "Oh, really? Okay, where do you want to go?" She pulled out her phone and scrolled for a moment. "There's a new French bistro nearby. I heard their prix-fixe menu is a really good deal. Want to try it?" The restaurant she took me to was in a different league entirely from the one I'd chosen, in both atmosphere and service. I started getting nervous, sneaking a peek at the menu. The prices were, as I suspected, much higher. She must have noticed my anxiety. She gently kicked my foot under the table and whispered, "Don't worry, I found a great Groupon for this place. The discount is huge." She ordered with confidence, even chatting with the waiter about the ingredients in one of the dishes. The meal was incredible, far better than anything I could have hoped for. When the check came, she quickly held up her phone to the waiter. "I've got the coupon. This is on me." The waiter scanned it and smiled. "Of course, ma'am. After the discount, your total comes to $45. I was stunned. That meal, at full price, would have been at least $200. How did you find a deal like that? That's amazing, I exclaimed as we left the restaurant. She linked her arm with mine, a proud little smile on her face. It's nothing, you just have to know where to look for deals. From now on, you can leave picking the restaurants to me. I was touched by her thoughtfulness and pulled her closer. I must have been the luckiest guy in the world to find a girlfriend so beautiful and so good at saving money. Things like this kept happening. My electric razor died, and the next day, she brought me a new one, claiming it was a drugstore brand on clearance for $10. But it gave me a much smoother shave than my old one ever had. I casually mentioned I was jealous of my coworker's mechanical keyboard. A few days later, she gave me one, saying she'd won in an online giveaway and had no use for it. The feel of the keys and the backlighting effects were better than the $200 model I'd been eyeing. I wore the on-sale sneakers she gave me. They were ridiculously comfortable. A coworker saw them and asked in amazement where I'd bought the limited edition Jordans. I had to mumble something about finding good knockoffs online. The most extreme example was when I needed a decent suit for an important industry conference. I was debating whether to rent one or buy something cheap off the rack when Aurora took me to a tailor shop tucked away in a quiet alley. She said the owner was a distant relative from her hometown who did great work for a fair price. The old tailor was a man of few words. He took my measurements and laid out a few bolts of fabric for me to choose from. I didn't know the first thing about fabric, but Aurora expertly ran her hand over them and picked out a simple, dark gray material. "This one's perfect, durable and affordable," she said. 2 weeks later, the suit was delivered. It fit me perfectly. The cut was impeccable, making me look sharper and more put together than I ever had. I wore it to the conference and even got complimented on my taste by 2 potential clients. I was thrilled. When I got home, I asked Aurora how much the suit cost so I could pay her back. She was ironing one of my shirts and didn't even look up. Not much. The fabric was leftover stock, and he just charged me for the labor since we're family. $150. $150. I couldn't believe it. The feel of the fabric, the quality of the craftsmanship. There was no way it cost that little. "Are you sure? That seems way too cheap." "I'm sure. He's my relative, remember?" she said, smiling as she hung up the freshly ironed shirt. "As long as it fits well, that's all that matters. Don't overthink it." I watched her, and that feeling of wrongness surfaced again. She always seemed to get things of incredible value for unbelievably low prices. And every single time, she had a perfect explanation: a Groupon, a giveaway, a clearance sale, a friend of a friend deal. But could all those things really happen to one person over and over again? 11. Our relationship continued to grow in this strange pattern of her being a little too good to me. I was lost in the bliss of being in love. While the occasional stroke of good luck bothered me, her gentle and considerate nature always managed to smooth over my doubts. Until my birthday. She told me weeks in advance that she had a surprise for me and had booked a restaurant that was notoriously difficult to get into. Filled with anticipation, I followed her to a revolving restaurant on the top floor of a luxury hotel, a place that required reservations months in advance. As we rode up the gleaming gold elevator, watching the city lights shrink beneath us, my anxiety hit its peak. "Aurora, this place. It looks really expensive," I whispered. She was wearing a simple black dress that somehow made her look incredibly elegant. She squeezed my hand, a mischievous glint in her eye. "Relax. I managed to snag their anniversary mystery box dinner deal. It's a fixed price, super affordable, and the chef creates a surprise menu. It'll be fun." There was again that kind of explanation, but this time I couldn't bring myself to believe it. A place with this much prestige and fame didn't seem like the type to run a mystery box promotion. The dinner was like a dream. The food was exquisite, like works of art. The service was flawless. The view of the skyline was breathtaking. Aurora seemed completely at ease with it all, even offering professional opinions on the wine pairings. I barely tasted the food. The delicious meal turned to ash in my mouth. I had only one thought. How much did this cost? Could her mystery box story possibly be true this time? When the check came, I insisted on paying. "No way. It's my treat for your birthday," Aurora said, trying to stop me. "Aurora, I'm your boyfriend. I can't let you pay for everything all the time," I said firmly, pulling out my credit card and handing it to the waiter. The waiter smiled, took the card, and returned a moment later with the bill folder and my card. He gave a slight bow to Aurora. "Ms. Sterling, we've charged it to your standing account, as per usual." "Standing account? As per usual?" I whipped my head around to look at Aurora. For the first time, a clear look of panic flashed across her face before she quickly suppressed it. She nodded at the waiter. "Okay, thank you." Then she turned to me, forcing a smile. I helped the manager out with a small problem a while ago, and he gave me a gift card. There wasn't much left on it, so we just used it up." My credit card was returned to me, untouched. I stared at the cold piece of plastic, then at her obviously strained expression. All the previous doubts, the Groupons, the clearance items, the giveaways, all the weirdness I'd pushed down came rushing back, crashing together into one question I could no longer ignore. Who was she? 12. The birthday dinner ended in a tense, suffocating atmosphere. On the way home, neither of us spoke. My mind was racing, replaying the waiter's words, "Ms. Sterling," and "as per usual," and the panic in her eyes. She kept her head down, nervously twisting the hem of her dress, clearly trying to figure out what to say. When we reached the bottom of our apartment building, I stopped and looked at her. "Aurora, we need to talk." She looked up, her eyes evasive, with a hint of pleading. Talk? Talk about what?" "About you," I said, taking a deep breath to steady my voice. "Let's talk about why the waiter at a five-star restaurant knows you, and why you have a standing account. Let's talk about how you always manage to get these unbelievable deals. Let's talk about the brand-new old laptop, the expensive hotel souvenir body wash, and all these on-sale clothes and shoes I'm wearing." I let out all the questions that have been piling up inside me. Her jaw dropped slightly, and her face went pale. She avoided my gaze. I already explained all that. It's just good luck, and I have some connections." "What kind of connections get you a standing account at a place like that, where the staff knows you by name?" "Aurora, do I look like an idiot to you? Am I that easy to fool?" "No, I wasn't trying to fool you," she cried, grabbing my arm. Her voice was thick with tears. I just want to be good to you, but I was afraid of putting pressure on you. By doing this, I stared at her, a feeling of helplessness and deceived anger washing over me. Letting me comfortably accept all these gifts from God knows where. Letting me live in a fantasy where my girlfriend is just really good at saving money. Is that what you wanted? My questions left her speechless. Tears finally started to fall. Seeing her cry felt like a punch to the gut, but I hardened my heart and didn't hug her. "I need an answer. Tell me, Aurora, who are you? And what do you really want from me?" I stared into her eyes. "If you don't tell me the truth, I couldn't bring myself to say the last part, but she understood. Her shoulders started to shake, and she began to sob. After a long moment, she sniffled and choked out, "I didn't want to lie to you. I just like you. I like you. And I was afraid that if you knew who I was, you'd push me away or feel pressured." "Who I am?" She took a deep, shaky breath, as if steeling herself. "My family. We're actually pretty wealthy." Even though I had already suspected it, hearing her say it out loud still made the world tilt on its axis. "How wealthy?" I heard myself ask, my voice dry and scratchy. She said a name. The name of a corporate group. A massive, multi-billion-dollar empire that everyone knew. And the girl standing in front of me, in her simple dress, living next door to me in this rundown building, was one of them. I stood there, stunned into silence. So, there were no Groupons, no giveaways, no special discounts. It was all an elaborate lie she had constructed to maintain her poor girl persona. The things I thought were expensive were probably, to her, the equivalent of me buying a warm pretzel from a street vendor. A tidal wave of shame and absurdity drowned me. All this time, my grateful acceptance, my being touched by her thoughtfulness, my belief in my own good luck, was it all just a ridiculous performance in her eyes? Me, an ordinary guy just getting by, had been kept by top-tier heirs for months. So, I finally managed to speak, my voice hoarse, watching me get emotional over a $10 pretzel, feeling guilty because you were so frugal, being ecstatic over a giveaway keyboard. Did that give you a big sense of accomplishment? No. Why would you think that? Aurora looked up sharply, her tear-filled eyes wide with hurt. I just wanted to be good to you in a way you could accept. I was afraid if I just gave you things, you wouldn't take them, that you'd leave me. I just wanted to be close to you." Her explanation sounded sincere, but my pride and sense of betrayal were screaming so loudly in my head that I couldn't think straight. I took a step back, away from her outstretched hand. "I'm sorry. I need some space." Without another look at her pale, devastated face, I turned and practically fled up the stairs. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed every single detail from our first meeting to now. Her frugality, her good luck, her thoughtfulness. It all made sense now. And that first meeting at the L station. Maybe it wasn't a coincidence after all. My thoughts were a tangled mess. 13. The next day was Saturday. I woke up in a haze, with no idea how to face her. Around noon, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. It was Aurora. Her eyes were red and swollen. She obviously hadn't slept either. She was holding an insulated lunch bag. I hesitated for a long time before finally opening the door. "I made you something to eat." She held the bag out to me, her voice hoarse and cautious. "You were drinking last night. It'll be bad for your stomach." Looking at her, my heart ached. I took the bag. Inside was warm congee and some simple side dishes. "Thanks," I said flatly. Can we please talk?" she asked, looking up at me, her eyes pleading. I stepped aside and let her in. She sat nervously on the edge of the couch. A suffocating silence filled the room. "I didn't mean to lie to you," she began, her fingers twisting together anxiously. "The first time I saw you wasn't at the L station. It was earlier." I looked at her in surprise. 3 months ago, my dad dragged me to a project celebration party for one of our subsidiary companies. You were sitting in a corner, barely noticeable. But when your project manager started belittling you, questioning your design, you didn't back down. You calmly refuted every point until he was speechless. I just thought, wow, that guy's amazing. A faint blush colored her cheeks as she remembered. Later, I asked around about you. I found out you were just a regular employee with no connections, that you had done most of the core design work on that project, but your boss took all the credit. But you didn't seem to care. You just kept your head down and did your work. I got curious about you. I started paying attention. I learned what time you got off work, which route you always took home, that you live alone, and that your life was simple. I just really wanted to meet you, but I was afraid that if I showed up as myself, I'd scare you off or make you think I had some ulterior motive. So, I came up with that stupid plan. She lowered her head, her voice getting smaller. I know it was dumb, lying to you for so long, but everything I did for you is real, and my feelings for you are real. I listened to her story, completely shocked. I had no idea I had been on her radar for that long. I tried to recall the party. I remembered a glimpse of a young woman in an elegant dress, surrounded by people, but I'd assumed she was some executive's daughter and didn't dare look twice. That was her. So, the L station was a setup? And moving in next door? My voice was trembling. Yes, she admitted, her head sinking even lower. The suitcase was heavy because I filled it with books. I'm not actually that weak. I just wanted you to help me. And the laptop? I had my assistant buy it. I was worried your old one would fail and you'd miss your deadline. The Groupons? The clearance sales? All lies. I bought the things and made up the stories. The standing account at the restaurant? My family is a long-term partner with that hotel group. We have a corporate account and discounts. She confessed everything, like a child admitting to their wrongdoings. Each answer was like a tiny needle pricking at my sensitive pride. I knew she didn't have malicious intent. Her intentions were probably good. But the feeling of being so thoroughly engineered and condescended to was unbearable. After a long silence, I finally asked the most important question. Why did you do all of this? Why go to all this trouble? Aurora, I'm just a normal guy. I have nothing to offer you. I don't want anything from you, she said, looking up urgently and grabbing my hand. Her palm was cold. I want you. I want the guy who, even when he's struggling, will help a stranger with her luggage. The guy who, even after a long day at work, will bring me a warm pretzel. The guy who, even though he's broke, still wants to take me to a nice dinner. Just seeing you makes me happy. Wanted to be good to you. Does that need a reason? Tears fell from her eyes again, landing on the back of my hand, scalding hot. If I have to give a reason, it's that when I'm with you, I don't have to be Aurora Sterling, the heiress. I could just be Aurora, a normal girl who gets excited about discounted apples and feels content with a warm bowl of pasta. When I'm with you, I can relax. I'm happy, and no amount of money can buy that. I looked into her sincere, tear-filled eyes, and the wall I had built around my heart began to crumble. Was she right? Maybe, but could I really just accept all of this? Aurora's confession rippled through me. I knew she was telling the truth. There seemed to be no other logical explanation for a top-tier heiress to spend so much time and energy pretending to be poor just to get close to me, other than her having genuine feelings. But the pride and insecurity ingrained in me fought back fiercely. I couldn't just convince myself to accept this massive disparity, this relationship built on a foundation of lies. After that day, we fell into a strange stalemate. I didn't break up with her, but I didn't know how to move forward. I returned the expensive MacBook Pro and went back to using my repaired, secondhand laptop. I took off the on-sale clothes and knockoff sneakers she'd given me and put back on my own cheap t-shirts and canvas shoes. I started refusing all her gifts, whether it was dinner at a restaurant with a coupon or a small present she'd won in a giveaway. I told her, Aurora, if we're going to make this work, it has to be on my terms in a way I can afford. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a little hurt, but she nodded. Okay, whatever you say. She seemed to be trying her best to revert to the poor girl, Aurora, I first met. She stopped making fancy pasta dishes and started genuinely looking up recipes for how to make instant ramen taste better. She stopped buying me things. For my next birthday, her gift was a scrapbook she made by hand, filled with photos from our time together. We started acting like a normal, everyday couple. We took the bus and the L, ate at food trucks, and went to free museum days. She never complained and even seemed to enjoy it. But I knew that for her, this was just another kind of performance, another sacrifice. This forced downgrading of our life was exhausting for me, and I was sure it was for her too. The breaking point came at a college reunion. A few of my more successful classmates were holding court at the dinner table, talking about stocks, real estate, and overseas investments. I couldn't contribute to the conversation and felt awkward and out of place. One guy, who had always been a show-off, noticed my bare wrist. I had put the discounted watch Aurora gave me away in a drawer, and teased me. So, Ethan, what are you up to these days? Rolling in it so much you're above wearing a watch. Another classmate looked at Aurora, who had been sitting quietly beside me. And this must be your lovely wife. She's beautiful. What do you do? Aurora was dressed simply in a sundress, with no jewelry. She smiled and was about to speak, but something in me snapped. I jumped in first, my voice laced with a bizarre, defensive arrogance. She's just a regular office worker. We live a pretty simple life, not like you guys with your million-dollar deals. I was smiling as I said it, but my heart felt like it was bleeding. I was protecting my pathetic pride by demeaning her and our relationship. The mood at the table instantly chilled. The smile on Aurora's face froze. She turned and looked at me, and her expression was a complex mix of shock, hurt, and was that pity? The rest of the dinner was a blur. After we left, we walked side by side on the dark street, wrapped in silence. It wasn't until we were almost at our building that she spoke, her voice soft. Why did you say that back there? I had no answer. I just kept walking. Do you feel ashamed to be with me? She asked, stopping. Her voice was quiet, but her words hit me like a sledgehammer. No, I denied it immediately. Then why can't you accept me for who I am? Why do you have to put up this fake front in front of your friends? Her voice trembled. Is the real me that hard for you to accept? Is it my fault that I was born rich? Her questions left me speechless. She was right. What was I doing? Out of my own shame and insecurity, I was hurting her, rejecting everything she was. That was far worse than any lie she had ever told. Aurora's questions were like a mirror, reflecting all my own narrow-mindedness and insecurities back at me. I couldn't answer her. After that night, the atmosphere between us turned ice-cold. I knew the problem was me, but I didn't know how to fix it. That deep-seated feeling of inadequacy was like a vine, choking me. I pathetically realized that without her help, even trying to do something nice for her felt pathetic. Her birthday was coming up. It would be the first one we'd celebrate together. I wanted to get her a real gift, something I bought with my own money, something worthy of her, or at least a version of her she had pretended to be. I looked at my bank account, doing the math over and over. Finally, I walked into a jewelry store that, in my world, was considered very expensive. Under the saleswoman's slightly judgmental gaze, I pointed to a delicate platinum ring. The price was the absolute limit of my savings. "Can I see that one, please?" The saleswoman took out the ring, her tone lukewarm. "An excellent choice, sir. It's one of our classic designs." I carefully picked up the ring, which sparkled under the bright lights, and imagined it on Aurora's slender finger. This would be an okay gift, right? Even if it probably cost less than a fraction of one of her casual bracelets. Just as I was about to grit my teeth and buy it, the shop door opened. The sales staff's tone instantly shifted to one of extreme enthusiasm. "Good afternoon, Ms. Sterling. The pieces you reserved are ready for you." "Miss Sterling?" I spun around and saw Aurora walking in. She was wearing a tailored white pantsuit and carrying a handbag that was clearly worth a fortune. She radiated an aura of effortless power, a world away from the simple girl I knew. She clearly hadn't expected to see me there. A flash of panic crossed her face. Her eyes fell to the ring in my hand, then to my mortified expression and the saleswoman's indifferent attitude. She understood everything in an instant. "This gentleman is with me," she said quickly to the manager who was approaching her. Then she walked over to me and lowered her voice. "What are you doing here?" I looked at her, then back at the ring in my hand, which suddenly felt cheap and pathetic. An overwhelming sense of shame washed over me. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. 16. My mind went blank. I practically stumbled out of the jewelry store. I thought I heard Aurora call my name behind me, but I couldn't hear anything over the roaring in my ears. Humiliation, embarrassment, inadequacy. A toxic cocktail of emotions boiled in my chest, burning me from the inside out. I ran like a coward, not daring to look back. I ran until I couldn't anymore, bending over with my hands on my knees, gasping for air on a busy street corner. Sweat and what might have been tears streamed down my face. Why was she there? The pieces you reserved. Of course, that was her real life. And I, like a pathetic clown, had been standing in one of her regular shops, holding a ring I'd spent my life savings on, trying to break into a world where I didn't belong. The saleswoman's polite but dismissive eyes, Aurora's flash of panic, the insignificant little ring in my hand. Every detail was a mocking testament to how out of my depth I was. The gap between us wasn't just about feelings or affection. It was a chasm so wide I could never cross it, no matter how hard I tried. I walked back to the old, run-down building in a daze. I didn't go up to my apartment. I sat on the cold concrete edge of a planter box out front and chain-smoked. The smoke made my eyes water, but it was nothing compared to the ache in my heart. The sky turned completely dark. I heard familiar footsteps in the stairwell. Aurora was back. She saw me and rushed over, her face etched with worry and urgency. "Where did you go? I've been looking all over for you. You wouldn't answer your phone." She sat down next to me, trying to see my face in the dark. "About what happened at the store." "Don't." I cut her off, my voice raw. I stubbed out my cigarette and looked up at her silhouette, still so beautiful in the dim light. My heart throbbed with a dull, constant pain. I pulled out my phone, the screen illuminating my miserable face. I ignored her hand reaching for mine, kept my head down, and started typing. Every word was like cutting myself. "Aurora, I'm sorry. I saw you today, and I saw the world you live in. I'm not good enough for you. You deserve someone better. Not someone like me, who makes you pretend, who needs you to tiptoe around his pride. Let's break up." Typing those last 3 words took every ounce of strength I had. As I hit send, I heard the notification chime from her phone. She froze, then quickly pulled out her own phone. The screen's glow lit up her instantly pale face and her wide, disbelieving eyes. She looked up at me, her voice trembling. "What is this supposed to mean?" "It means exactly what it says," I said, getting to my feet, unable to look at her any longer. "I'm sorry." With that, I turned and rushed into the building, practically fleeing to my apartment and locking the door behind me. Immediately, a frantic knocking started, along with her tearful cries. "Open the door! Talk to me! You're breaking up with me because my family has money. Is that it? Come out! Ethan, come out!" I leaned my back against the door and slid down to the floor. Her voice on the other side was like a blunt knife, sawing away at my nerves. I covered my ears and buried my head in my knees. My phone vibrated nonstop in my pocket, the screen lighting up and going dark over and over. All notifications from her. I didn't dare look. I knew every message could shatter the resolve I had so painfully built. 17. I didn't sleep a wink that night. The voice outside my door eventually faded, either from exhaustion or from giving up. But my phone never stopped vibrating. Her messages shifted from shock, anger, and questions to pleading and explanations, and finally to a kind of desperate calm. Because of money. You're going to throw away everything we have because of money. I was wrong to lie, but my feelings for you were real. Please just come out so we could talk about this. Please. Ethan, I'm begging you. You really don't want me anymore. I forced myself to read every single one. Each message felt like my heart was being torn a little more. I curled up behind the door, my thumb hovering over the screen, trembling, unable to type a single word in response. What could I say? That I didn't resent her for being rich, I resented myself for being poor. That I felt utterly humiliated knowing that a single piece of her jewelry was worth more than I made in years. That I couldn't stop thinking about what people would say, that they'd call me a gold digger who was leeching off a woman. Saying any of that would only make me sound more pathetic, more small-minded. Just before dawn, my phone finally went silent. I thought she had finally given up. Exhausted, I finally started to drift off. But just as I was about to fall asleep, my phone buzzed one last time. Just once. I struggled to pick it up and look. It was from Aurora, one sentence and one picture. The sentence read, "This is the thing you don't think you're good enough for?" I opened the picture. It was a photo of a property deed. In the space for the owner's name, clearly written, was my name, Ethan Hayes. And the property address was for this run-down, shabby apartment unit, the one I had lived in for 2 years, the one full of memories of her. I shot upright, instantly awake, my heart hammering so hard it felt like it would burst from my chest. What? What did this mean? When did this apartment become mine? I stared at the picture, my mind a complete chaotic mess. When did she buy it? How did she do it? Why? Why would she do this? Before I could process any of it, another message popped up. Open the door. Let's talk face to face. Almost in sync with the message, the knocking started again. This time, it wasn't frantic. It was slow, deliberate, and held a tone of absolute, undeniable certainty. 18. The steady, insistent knocking on the door matched the chaotic rhythm of my heart. I stared at the picture of the deed with my name on it, feeling the blood freeze in my veins. Did she buy the whole building? Or just my unit? When did she file the paperwork? How did I know nothing about this? A profound sense of shock and a terrifying feeling of being completely outmaneuvered seized me. Open the door, Ethan. Aurora's voice came from the other side, calmer than ever before, but carrying a weight of authority I couldn't ignore. Or would you rather I let myself in? As if in a trance, my legs weak, I stumbled to my feet and unlocked the door. It swung open. Aurora stood there. She had changed her clothes. She wasn't in the elegant pantsuit anymore, nor was she in her usual simple t-shirt and jeans. She wore a dark, beautifully tailored dress that made her skin look like porcelain. Her eyes were still a little swollen, but her expression had transformed. The pleading, the hurt, the panic, it was all gone. In its place was a deep, unsettling calm, tinged with obsession and resolve. She held a folder and a single, ornate vintage key I had never seen before. "I see you got my message," she said, her voice as even as if she were discussing the weather, glancing at the phone still lit up in my hand. She walked past me, into my apartment, as if she owned the place. She surveyed the small, messy room, made even more chaotic by my turmoil from the night before, and placed the folder on my wobbly coffee table. "This is a copy. I have the original for safekeeping," she said, pointing to the folder. "Legally speaking, you are now the owner of this apartment." Surprised, I leaned against the doorframe, feeling drained of all strength. What the hell are you doing? What am I doing?" Aurora turned and walked toward me, closing the distance until I could feel the warmth of her breath. She looked up, her beautiful eyes locking onto mine. They churned with intense emotions I had never seen in her before. Obsession, possessiveness, and a barely hidden fragility. "I'm making you understand that your idea of not being good enough is completely worthless to me. I'm making you understand that you can't run away. Ethan, the game has started, but you were never the one with the power to call it off." Her voice was soft, but her words felt like cold chains wrapping around my heart. I instinctively tried to step back, but she grabbed my wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong, her nails digging into my skin. You want to dump me because my family has money. You want to throw everything away because I'm not the poor, helpless girl you wanted to protect? She took another step closer, her breath brushing against my cheek, carrying a dangerously sweet scent. Well, I'm telling you, it's too late. The moment you helped me with my suitcase, the moment you bought me that pretzel, the moment you asked me if we could be more than just neighbors, you lost any chance of backing out. When I, Aurora Sterling, decide I want someone, I don't let them go. Whether you accept it or not, you have to be mine. Her gaze was almost insane with obsession, yet deep within it, I could see the trembling fear of rejection. This extreme contradiction gave her a broken, yet powerful kind of beauty. I was so stunned by her words and her intensity that I forgot to struggle. So, she said, releasing my wrist, but letting her fingers trail slowly up to my cheek, her touch ice cold. Don't ever say anything stupid about not being good enough again. All you need to know is that I will be good to you. I will give you everything I have, and all you have to do is stay by my side and accept it. And if you ever try to run again, her fingertips pressed slightly, forcing me to look into the dark fire in her eyes. I have no problem using more direct methods to make you understand who's really in control here. She finished, pulling her hand away as if nothing had happened, her calm demeanor returning. She picked up the folder from the coffee table and pushed it into my chest. Keep this. Your first present, she said, even managing a faint smile that sent a chill down my spine. There will be many, many more. Then, as calmly as she arrived, she turned and left. She left me standing there, holding the heavy folder with the copy of a deed in my name, feeling like I was holding both a ticking time bomb and my inescapable future. The door was open, and the cold hallway air drifted in, but my whole body felt like it was on fire. I knew, in that moment, that everything had changed. Irrevocably. Aurora's speed was terrifying. The next day, while I was still reeling in a hungover state of shock, there was another knock on the door. It wasn't Aurora this time, but several workers in the uniform of a high-end furniture company. The man in charge smiled politely. Mr. Hayes, we're here on behalf of Ms. Sterling to replace some of your furniture and appliances. Before I could even process what he'd said, they were efficiently moving my squeaky old couch, my slow, ancient refrigerator, and the cheap mattress that gave me back pain out of the apartment. The items they brought in to replace them left me speechless. A plush, top-of-the-line sofa that felt like a cloud, a smart, double-door refrigerator, and an ergonomic, ridiculously expensive-looking king-size bed. They even installed a high-end sound system and a massive gaming monitor. They worked with professional speed. In less than 2 hours, the soul of my rundown apartment had been completely replaced. The exterior was still the same peeling paint and old window frames, but the inside was now a level of luxury I couldn't have imagined. The entire time, I just stood in the corner like a statue, unable to stop them. How could I? The apartment was in my name. She was just renovating the gift she gave me. Why did I have to object? As soon as the workers left, Aurora appeared. She was carrying several elegant takeout containers and walked in as if it were the most natural thing in the world, as if she wasn't the person who had threatened me the night before. She glanced around the transformed room and nodded in satisfaction. Much better. Now you'll have a comfortable place to sleep when you work late. She placed the food on the new, gleaming dining table, opening each container to reveal an array of delicious-looking dishes. Come and eat, she said, her tone as casual as if we'd been living like this for years. I walked over stiffly and stared at the meal, which was clearly from a high-end restaurant kitchen. My throat felt tight. Aurora, can we please? No. She cut me off, handed me a pair of chopsticks. Her eyes were calm, but held a look that tolerated no argument. Don't talk while you're eating. It's bad for digestion. All the words I wanted to say died in my throat. We ate in complete silence. I couldn't taste a thing, but she ate with a calm, composed poise. After the meal, she even cleared the table and loaded the dishes into the new dishwasher, her movements practiced and sure. Then she turned on the new sound system, and soft music filled the room. She sat on the new sofa and patted the cushion next to her. Come on, see if it's comfortable. I looked at her, feeling like a puppet on a string. I eventually walked over and sat down stiffly. The sofa was, of course, incredibly comfortable, enveloping me completely. She turned to face me and reached out, gently smoothing the frown lines on my forehead. "Stop frowning all the time," she whispered, her voice soft and hypnotic. "Just try to accept it. Okay. Does it make you that miserable when I'm good to you?" Her fingertips were cool, but her touch was searing. I looked at her face, so close to mine. In her eyes, beneath the obsession, was a deep, undisguised affection and an almost desperate plea. My heart slammed against my ribs. The words of refusal wouldn't come out. Maybe, deep down, there's a part of me I refused to acknowledge that craved this heavy, overwhelming love. Sensing my resolve weakening, the corners of her mouth lifted in a triumphant, sweet smile. She snuggled against me, finding a comfortable position in my arms, and whispered, just like this, "Let's listen to some music together." I didn't push her away. The gentle, classical music flowed from the speakers. The new sofa was dangerously comfortable. The girl in my arms was soft and smelled faintly of perfume. Everything felt perfect. If I could just ignore the invisible shackles that were slowly, surely tightening around my ankles. I knew then I was never going to escape. In a way that was both aggressive and meticulous, Aurora began to take over every aspect of my life. My closet slowly filled with clothes and shoes she bought me. Perfectly tailored, expensive fabrics, with the tags always removed beforehand. My cheap drugstore aftershave was replaced with a sophisticated cologne that smelled like sandalwood and quiet money. She even hired an auntie, who she claimed was a nutritionist, to come over every evening and cook me a healthy and delicious dinner, supposedly to help my stomach recover from years of takeout. She no longer pretended to be poor, but she didn't flaunt her wealth either. She simply, in a way I couldn't refuse, merged her world with mine. Or rather, she absorbed my world into her orbit. She would have her black, obscenely expensive car pull up right in front of my office building at quitting time, ignoring the stunned stares of my colleagues, to whisk me away to a restaurant she had booked. While I had to work late on a project, she would show up at the office with enough high-end catering and coffee for the entire team, smiling at my bewildered coworkers and saying, "You've all worked so hard. Thanks for looking after Ethan for me." She was always gracious and polite, but every action was a declaration of ownership. The way my coworkers looked at me changed from surprise and curiosity to a kind of knowing amusement, mixed with envy and perhaps a little contempt. I became the office joke, CEO Sterling's runaway trophy husband. I was mortified, but powerless to stop it. Whenever I showed the slightest sign of discomfort or resistance, Aurora wouldn't get angry. She would just look at me with those sad, obsessive eyes and ask softly, "I just want to be good to you, to make your life easier. Is that so wrong?" Or, late at night, when we were alone, she would hold me tighter, her lips brushing against my ear as she whispered a mixture of heat and threat. "You will always be mine. Don't even think about leaving." This combination of extreme generosity and extreme control slowly broke me down. The shame was still there, but it was being buried under a lethargic acceptance and a strange sense of security that came from being held so tightly in her grasp. I was the frog in a pot of slowly boiling water, growing accustomed to the suffocating but comfortable heat. Then, one day, an old college friend, Chloe, a girl I'd had a crush on but lost touch with after graduation, was in town for business and contacted me through an alumni group. We met at a generic coffee shop. It was just a simple catch-up, talking about our jobs and lives. During our chat, my phone lit up a few times with texts from Aurora asking what I wanted for dinner. I sent a few quick replies. The meeting with Chloe lasted about an hour. We said our goodbyes and promised to stay in touch. I turned and walked to the L station, thinking nothing of it. But when I got home that evening and opened the door, Aurora was sitting on my expensive sofa, swirling a glass of red wine. Her face was cast in shadow in the dim light. The main lights were off, with only a single-floor lamp casting a moody glow. The atmosphere was heavy. "You're back," she said, setting down her glass. Her voice was calm. "Did you have a nice chat with your old friend?" A rock dropped in my stomach. How did you know?" She let out a small, humorless laugh and picked up a tablet from the cushion next to her. She swiped a few times, then turned the screen toward me. On it were several photos of me and Chloe talking outside the coffee shop. They were clearly taken from a distance, but the images were sharp, even capturing the moment Chloe had smiled at me. The blood ran cold in my veins. "You had me followed?" I was both shocked and furious. "I was just worried about you," she said, putting the tablet down and rising to her feet. She walked toward me, her eyes dark pits in the shadows. "After all, my Ethan is so wonderful. I can't have someone with bad intentions trying to snatch you away, can I?" Her tone was terrifyingly sweet. It made the hair on my arms stand up. "We're just old friends catching up." I tried to explain. "I know," she said. She reached out, her cool fingertips landing on my cheek again, then sliding down my jaw in a slow, appraising manner. "She's pretty, isn't she? I heard she was the most popular girl at your department back in the day." Her fingers suddenly tightened, gripping my chin and forcing me to look directly into her eyes, which were now glacial and blazing with possessiveness. "But you, Ethan, had better remember." Her voice dropped to a whisper, a twisted, sweet sound that was absolutely chilling. "Every single part of you, down to the last strand of your hair, belongs to me. No one else is allowed to even look." Her words were like a sweet poison, seeping into my bloodstream and chilling me to the bone. Her grip on my chin was painful, but I felt paralyzed, pinned in place by the sheer force of her will. The darkness and obsession swirling in her eyes were terrifying, but mixed in was a strange, heartbreaking vulnerability. "You?" I tried to argue, to pull away, but my throat closed up, and all that came out was a strangled noise. "I don't like it when other people touch my things," she murmured, her grip loosening slightly, her thumb now stroking the reddened skin of my jaw. Her tone was as soft as a lover's whisper, but the words were a threat. "Especially you, Ethan. You are mine. Only mine." She leaned in closer, her nose almost touching mine, our breaths mingling in the space between us. I could smell the faint scent of red wine. "It seems the gentle approach just makes you forget," she whispered, her gaze dropping to my lips, her eyes so deep they felt like they could swallow me whole. "Do I need to remind you more often?" My heart was hammering against my ribs, a chaotic mix of fear and a strange, thrilling excitement at being desired so intensely. It was tearing me apart. I wanted to run, but my body felt glued to the spot by the sheer gravity of her dark obsession. "Aurora, don't do this," I managed to say, my voice weak. "Don't do what?" She laughed softly, and her other arm snaked around my waist, pulling me hard against her, trapping me in her embrace. Our bodies were flush against each other. I could feel her rapid heartbeat and the slight tremor running through her. "This?" she asked, tilting her head up, her wet eyes locking onto mine, filled with an unconcealed hunger and a desperate, all-or-nothing resolve. "Or this?" As the last word left her lips, she rose onto her toes and, with a force that left no room for refusal, kissed me. It wasn't a gentle touch. It was a conquest. Her lips were soft, but searing, pressing and crushing against mine. Her tongue aggressively parted my lips, delving inside to tangle with my own. It tasted of wine, of her unique sweetness, and of an unmistakable, desperate possessiveness. My mind went completely white. My first instinct was to push her away. My hands came up to her shoulders, but she only held me tighter, as if trying to merge our bodies into one. Her kiss was clumsy but dominant, driven not by technique, but by a raw, overwhelming need to stake her claim. The air grew thick with a dangerous, electric tension. My strength to resist drained away, lost in her suffocating embrace, and this kiss that was all about control. A strange shiver ran down my spine, not just of fear, but of a shameful excitement at being wanted this fiercely, this completely. I don't know how long it lasted, but just when I felt like she was going to steal all the air from my lungs, she pulled back slightly, breaking the kiss. A thin, glistening thread of saliva stretched between our lips for a moment before snapping in the dim light. Her forehead rested against mine. She was breathing heavily, her cheeks flushed a deep red, her eyes shimmering with moisture, but still burning with that unyielding obsession. "Now," she panted, her voice husky and low. "Do you remember? But do you need a more thorough reminder?" My lips were swollen and tingling. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. I felt so weak I could barely stand, supported only by the arm she still had clamped around my waist. All my struggles, my shame, my fear, it all seemed to have been annihilated by that brutal kiss. In its place was a sense of resigned surrender and a desire for her that had been ignited into a roaring flame, one I could no longer ignore. I looked at her, so close I could see every detail of her beautiful face, twisted by this crazy, obsessive love for me. Finally, as if hypnotized, I closed my eyes and gently, hesitantly, kissed her back. It was just a light press of the lips, but it made Aurora's entire body jolt. Outside, the rain that had been threatening all evening finally began to fall, drumming a soft, steady rhythm against the window panes.